Well, it wasn't embarrassing to see how far they've come, especially on night two when we saw Bailey get her big WrestleMania moment against Io Sky. I know that Bailey has won a four-way in 2017 at WrestleMania before, but this being her first singles match and her winning the women's title, this felt like Bailey's WrestleMania moment to me. What say you, Jim?
Oh, I agree. Yeah, she's lovely person, and a hell of a worker. She reminds me of when we brought in Jackie, as I mentioned earlier, and Ivory and Terry Pock. She knows how to work, and she can bring out the best in any opponent that she's booked with, and that's invaluable. That's totally invaluable. You can't replicate that. So, but I was happy for her. She's paid her dues for God knows, and sweetheart of a person. And that was a great moment for her. She'll never forget it, and nor should she.
There's a report out that says that WWE is moving away from the term sports entertainment. They're going to be embracing the term pro wrestling. What do you make of that?
Logical as hell.
Yeah.
Logical as hell. And I don't. I've never looked at pro wrestling as a negative term. I've always been a proponent of pro wrestling. That's what we do. That's what it is. So roll with it. Why not? That's another. I think one of the ways goodbye to Vince. We're not doing this thing anymore. We're going to do pro wrestling. That's what the business was predicated on. And any generation you look at, any territory you want to look at, it was all predicated on the success of the live events and in these territories. And I'm just a big believer that pro wrestling is the way to go. We do it in AEW since day one. Tony Khan is unabashed. He's a pro wrestling fan and a pro wrestling historian to some degree. So that's what makes it so much fun to work for Tony. He's just a fan. He gets the big, he's excited. He gets the adrenaline rush, and that's infectious. That's good for all of us. How can I be half-ass it when my boss is gung ho as hell and ready to rock and roll? You want that. You need that, and it's a positive environment. That's one of the great things I like about Tony's got me doing pay-per-views. At least that's the plan today, and I hope it stays that way because I have something to look forward to. They're big events, and that card, like you mentioned, the card for St. Louis. My God, that son of a bitch is star studded, man. It's like a major pay per view, which is what it is. So anyway, I'm a big believer that pro wrestling is the way to go. It's the right moniker, if you will.
Well, it's the right way to go for Dwayne Johnson. It was disclosed yesterday. Brandon Thurston posted over on Twitter that as of Sunday, Dwayne Johnson received 96,558 TKO shares, which meant as of Tuesday, it was worth $9.41 million. Nice little payday for this run and part of that agreement that he struck with WWE. So kudos for him.
He's a smart businessman, isn't he? Smart. He gets it, man. When we talked about him before, one of the things that I remember mentioning was that he was the first guy that wanted to talk about payoffs. And seriously, he kept track. He knew what the houses were, and he got that from Austin. Both those guys are very educated, and anytime you have uh, a pay system that is what's the word I'm looking for? It's not indiscriminate, but it's paid on productivity, discretionary money. All pay per views are discretionary monies, unless you got something in your contract that says you're guaranteed no less than, which was very seldom. I can't even think of somebody off the top of my head that's guaranteed X dollars for showing up. And I think that's what kept our locker room sharp. Competition. I know it's funny. I read this morning before we started recording, Conrad, that somebody said, I can't wait for the St. Louis pay per view because AEW guys seem to always rise to the occasion on a pay-per-view. And I started thinking about that. It sounds good coming out of the AEW PR department, but it's factual. This group of guys enjoy topping the other, and they enjoy stealing the show if possible. So I'm I'm looking forward to this whole thing. Uh, Wrestlers can get up just like a football player can, or a basketball player, or whatever. They can get themselves up and have more effort and tell a better story, be more focused, work harder, work smarter. And I think that's what you get from an AEW show without question.
Well, I for one am pumped to think about the future of wrestling, but I know that part of that means there's going to be some pieces on the board moving around.
Yeah.
There's lots of rumor and innuendo that Drew McIntyre and Becky Lynch both have contracts that are coming due relatively soon, and there's lots of people wondering, hey, did the finishes we saw at WrestleMania, is that reflective of where they are in their contractual status, or is there a chance those talents could retire or leave WWE or take a break? Or there's a lot of moving parts right now in
Yeah.
professional wrestling, and we just saw three big, free agents land in AEW with Will Ospreay, with Okada, and with Mercedes Moné. And for the first time, maybe we saw multiple releases from AEW. And that is an unfortunate reality of growing a business. I've had to be the guy to make that call before. And as bad as it sucked to get that call, I'm sure there was somebody on the other end who was really dreading having to make that call. And
I made a few of those, Conrad.
yeah, I wanted your take. Like, you've been the guy who's had to hire a lot of people and unfortunately had to fire a lot of people and let a lot of folks go. But I'm sure you had some words of encouragement along the way about how to get back there. What would your words of advice be to those folks who are finding themselves in a transition right now?
Uh, don't bury yourself in your own misery. Get over it. Move on. Uh, re Reestablish yourself. Hit the reset button. The end is not permanent. It's just now your skills are not needed. And you may not agree. You probably don't agree. I wouldn't agree if I were you, but that's how it is. That's the hand that we've all been dealt. And, I unfortunately have the distinction of making this phone call. But the key thing is just don't self destruct. Don't go off the handle. Don't fall off the wagon. Don't stop training. Don't create have nothing but positive vibes coming from you in your afterlife, because that goes a long way. So I'm just attitudinal. Just if you obviously you had athletic skills, or we wouldn't have hired you.
That's right.
So yeah, you check that box. Now make it good for the company, any company, to want to work with you. It's a lot more important to have a company want to work with you than not. I mean, golly, it's just common sense, right? So
Yeah.
anyhow, that's attitude. Don't let this bad news and this bump in the road stop your journey. Don't do that.